Hello, everybody, and welcome to our final session in the Journey to Being. And today's session is Love as an Alchemical Tool. And I'm just going to make this in presenter mode here. Beautiful. All right. So in today's session, we are going to cover explore recaps of what we talked about last week. We're going to do a meditation to get us into our heart space to start out. We're going to talk about alchemy, the inner critic, and movement and reflection. We're going to do that. And then we're going to talk about special invitation and questions. And so if you don't know me and you're watching on the replay, I am Nicole Rose, or Radiant Soul Nicole. I am a soul embodiment guide and ecstatic dance facilitator. And I love helping people move out of their heads and into their hearts and embody more of who they are, of all these different things that I've been talking about. We need time to be able to integrate everything and embody it. And the more we practice, the more we're able to have it be part of who we are and how we live our life. So it's like creating these little habits and doing these little things every day that becomes part of who we are. And that's our beingness. And that's why I'm so passionate about this journey to being and my new course, Human Being, is because who we are is a human being, yet we're running the human doing program so often. And it's about this journey is all about shedding all of that, all of those doing things, and coming into our beingness. So last week we talked about exploring, we talked about listening. We did a beautiful meditation to listen and drop us deep into our bodies. And as explorers, we get to observe what is there with curiosity and without judgment. So like what is there, I mean, in our bodies, in our minds, there's our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions. And when we're able to kind of be the witness rather than be it, it helps us come to a neutral place so that we can connect with our beingness and that we can heal. So if you feel called to share, you can share in the Zoom chat box, or you can also share in on the YouTube comments as well. Let me know, how did your own work go from last week? So did you practice listening with non-judgment? Was it harder or easier than you thought it might be? Did any resistance or judgments come up? And while I'm waiting to see if any comments come in, I can find a chat box. I am just going to share my own experience last week. So as often can still happen to me, there's still thoughts that I don't love and that I don't want to have happen, but they're there. And I noticed that I was actually shooting on myself a lot. And as I am stepping into entrepreneurship and creating a program and looking at what other people are doing, I noticed that I was feeling like I should do things a certain way, and like, what are people going to think, or how am I going to be positioned if I don't do things those way? And I was putting a lot of judgment and pressure on myself. And like, that's something that, our inner critics can be real assholes sometimes and make things harder for us than we need to. So I worked through it. I ended up just making my page, my event Human Being on Eventbrite, rather than building a whole website page for it, which felt so much easier and more in alignment, and it worked out so well. But it was a whole process to actually get there. So just being very real and candid about my own my own inner critic and stuff that comes up. But that's kind of what I noticed last week when I practiced listening. And so getting a comment here, I still judge myself for needing to take time for myself too. Yeah, that happens for me too. You did rest anyway and felt better after and felt more creative as well. That's awesome. That is such a huge program of not letting ourselves rest. And we're going to talk about that more today, but that's actually like a need. Rest is a need, play is a need. Um, all these things that we often prioritize last because we're like, oh, well, if I get to that, then I can do it. But it's not on my priority list because we're not actually told that they're needs. Like, just as much as you need to breathe and eat and have shelter, you also need to rest. You also need to play. That was actually something I discovered when I was a hula hooper. I knew that I loved hula hooping because it was fun, but I didn't realize that it was actually filling a real need to play. And I think so often as adults, we don't give ourselves that time to play because we have all these other responsibilities and obligations to do first. But if we don't take care of ourselves, and this is what I keep coming back to, if we don't take care of our beingness first, then we are going to feel tired and not so great afterwards. But when we give ourselves that permission to rest anyway, then we can feel so much better. I actually had this experience yesterday too. My body was like, "Whew, you've been working hard, Nicole. You need to do a rest this morning." And I was like, my mind was like, "But I have to launch my program and my course, and I don't have time to do yoga nidra." And I'm like, "Well, I honestly am at the point still in my healing recovery where I can't push through things." And I think that was why I got a concussion, is because I'm forced to listen because I don't have the option to not listen anymore. But as I've been getting better, I've been able to do more, and that's great. And I'm like, okay, I still have to learn the balance of like when I need to rest and when I can't push through. And sometimes I can a little bit. Sometimes you have to and you don't have a choice. But um yeah, so anyways, I gave myself that time to rest and it was so wonderful. I also, after the yoga nidra meditation I did, I couldn't even actually get up out of bed. I was like, oh, I just need to lay here and just like be. I wasn't on my phone. I was just laying there being, and it was so needed. And everything that I did afterwards, like I always say, it just flowed so easily after giving myself that time and space. So no matter I feel like no matter where we are on our journey, we're probably still going to come up against resistance, but it gets so much easier the more you practice and practice forgiveness. Sabrina says, I find myself programmed regarding housework when it should be completed, how often. Actually resisted and rested instead of cleaning. Yay, celebrating you on that. Um, yeah, that's another one too. Like we have to do all the things first and then we get to rest. But really, when you rest first, those cleaning tasks will never be done. So um, give yourself the rest first, and then maybe you'll be more inspired and motivated to do it afterwards. Hmm. So, this quote that I have up here, loving yourself for who you are is accepting yourself for who you're not. This is actually one of two versions of this quote that I coined a number of years ago. And it's just so relevant and it just rings true. I think the first version would be loving yourself for who you are is forgiving yourself for who you're not. And then after you forgive yourself, then you're able to accept yourself for who you're not. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, giving ourselves more self compassion. So, you know, maybe there's a judgment around like being the person that needs to keep a clean house. And there could be a whole bunch of different beliefs that if I don't have a clean house, uh, who knows what they could be, that I'm not a good person. It's the first thing that comes to mind. Could be anything. And so we don't want to have that belief be true. So we do the thing, even though, and ignore what we actually need. So it's actually a really big deal when you take that time to rest. And so maybe you're not the person that keeps a clean house, and that's okay. You can forgive yourself for that and accept yourself and love yourself for who you are instead. And that's how am giggling because I've never been a really super great housekeeper. And that's how I am able to mm, be okay with that. Although sometimes I get in like cleaning fits and I'm like, I need to have this house clean. So before we move on, I just want to bring us into our heart space. Invite you to close your eyes. Bring yourself into your body. If you have any thoughts racing through your mind, or just even in your mind, any things that you're thinking that you need to do later, just put them on a shelf, an invisible bookshelf beside you. And you can come back to them later once we're done. There's nowhere else you need to be. We're right here, right now. I'm going to invite you to take a breath in through your nose, filling up your legs, filling up your belly, pausing at the top, and blowing it out like a candle ever so slowly through your mouth. And we're going to breathe in through your nose, filling up your belly and your heart, pausing in your heart space, and blowing that out through your mouth like a candle ever so slowly again. Now we are going to breathe in through our nose, filling up your belly, your heart, and your head, pausing at the top and blowing that out like a candle. And dropping your awareness down into your heart space. To activate our heart spaces, I'm going to invite you to think of something that you want to celebrate, of an accomplishment that you did today, just connecting into something that you want to celebrate because celebration lifts your vibration. Just noticing how that feels in your body. It could be anything from showing up here, choosing a different thing that you did, anything at all. And then to invite you to connect into something that you're grateful for. It's a little bit different. Your person, a thing, anything at all that you're grateful for in this moment. Now I want you to think of a time when you were, mm, when you felt like you had a really open heart, when your heart was full of love, you felt like it was overflowing. As you're thinking of that, remembering that experience, I'd like you to connect into how that felt in your body. What were the physical sensations that you felt or that you're feeling right now as you remember? What were the thoughts that you had? noticing where you felt it in your body as well. Just feeling those sensations. We can always use our breath, breathing into our heart space to expand those feelings of love. You can use your hands if you want as well, breathing in through your nose. You exhale, just pulling that out. I'm going to move on with the presentation. So we're going to come back into our bodies and give yourself some loving touch on your legs or on your arms, gently opening your eyes, deepening your breath. I would love to know how you are feeling right now in this moment. I am feeling, mm, I was already feeling pretty good when we started, to be honest, but I'm still feeling really good. I'm feeling a little bit more relaxed and a little bit softer. Shannon is feeling a lot more grounded and very relaxed from Sabrina. Wonderful. All right. So today's title, as we move into this, is Love as an Alchemical Tool. And what is alchemy? Let's start there. Alchemy is the process of turning lead into gold, and we can bring this process into our own lives by transmuting our own density, so our thoughts, our beliefs, our feelings into light, and we can do that with the power of love. And the power of love is so powerful and amazing. That is the biggest key to shifting. I think a lot of people are taught to, um, or we just naturally, we don't want to feel our feelings. And when we're able to tune into the power of love and hold space, like hold a container of love for them, as if we were holding space for a friend or a loved one, we can do that for ourselves. It's such a powerful process to be able to actually feel our feelings, and it makes us feel safe and held. And I think so many of us, and when I worked with clients, um, I've asked like, "Oh, so how are you at feeling feelings?" And often they're like, "I'm pretty good." And then as we work together, they're like, "Oh, I actually am not as good at feeling my feelings as I thought that I was." And because of the container that I can help create for them, they're able to actually feel things in a little bit more safety. And that comes with a caveat, of course, because if there's a lot of trauma, it is really important to work with somebody that is trauma informed in their approach. And I don't have that training yet, but I am able to hold space to, help with that. So if there's could be like a lot of trauma from really, really big traumatic events, that kind of stuff is out of my scope, I should say. But like, yeah, there's a certain level of trauma I can deal with. But if it's too much, there's tons of practitioners that can help with that type of thing. But we can transmute our own density into light by holding it in a space of love. And what does alchemy require? So forgiveness and compassion are like the keys for this. We can forgive ourselves, or when we can forgive ourselves, that is really the biggest piece. I think the reason that we can't move on from things sometimes is because we can't forgive ourselves. And often it's, I know for me before in the past, it was like, well, I should have known better and I should have done better, and lots of shitting on myself. um, and that's really such a, yeah, we'll talk more about shitting again later. And then compassion, just like you're doing the best that you can with the resources that you have at the time, and thinking of your inner child like we've talked about, or thinking of like a loved one, or like, a small animal, or a child. If we think about ourselves as that, I think that we would have so much more compassion for ourselves. And we have high expectations. I know so many people have such high expectations on themselves that they wouldn't ever put on anybody else, but you put it on yourself for some reason. And I have been there. As a recovering perfectionist, I had so much pressure on myself that I didn't need to have, and wasn't aware of why I had it. But having forgiveness and compassion for myself and being able to offer that to me myself has been so potent. And it's like, if you think back to a hard time, previous hard time in your life, and from where you're at right now, you can look back at that version of you, and you're probably going to tell them like everything's going to be okay. You're being too hard on yourself. It's going to be fine. It's going to work out. You're doing such an amazing job. But at the time, you might have been spinning in different ways. But when we, yeah, look back at those struggles, we can give ourselves so much compassion. But yeah, we'll talk about what happens if you don't feel like that. Um, Then just the second point is we need the higher vibrational energy to alchemize the lower vibrational energy. So love vibrates at a high frequency, and like fear and all those other feelings vibrate at a low frequency. And they're not necessarily bad nor good, but they're just different frequencies. And the power of love is at this high frequency. It can just transmute, melt, dissolve all of those lower frequency energies, but we have to feel it first. We can't just bypass it. That's what spiritual bypassing is not allowing ourselves to feel it and just trying to move straight into forgiveness. So we do have to spend some time in those icky feelings, those sad feelings. And there's times when I've just felt sad and it sucks, and I'm trying to like dance to shake it out, and sometimes that works, but there's other times where it doesn't. And in those times, I'm like, okay, I guess I have to feel it now. So I literally sit there, hold space for myself, give myself that container, and I am breathe through the sadness, and it sucks, but then it transmutes, and it's so quickly. Down a little bit. So there's my quote again. The other version: loving yourself for who you are is forgiving yourself for who you're not. And the inner critic tells us we aren't good enough and that we don't deserve love. And our inner critic is, like I said, an asshole. And we don't need to listen to it anymore. But it served a purpose. It kept us safe. It helped us get our needs met at one point in time. And now we're coming to a point, because you're here, you're watching this, there, you realize that it's not working for you anymore. So we don't want to judge it for it being wrong. It was helping us to get our needs met. And um, that process created conditional love. I just want to check my note about that because I know I had something else to say. So conditional love is, I think so many of us run this program too, where when I achieve this thing, then I'll love myself. Or when I lose this amount of weight, then I'll love myself. Or when I, hit this goal, then I'll love myself. But we'll always find a new thing to do, and we'll never actually get to that point of loving ourselves. And so that's why it's so important to learn to love yourself right now in the moment for exactly who you are, and forgive yourself for who you're not, and accept yourself for who you're not. Know that because you're here also, you're always going to be growing. And yeah, you're not, and if you're like me, you're a perfectionist, and you have that driving you a little bit to always continue, improving and doing more. I just have this innate need to seek out more information and learn more. I'll always do better. So yeah, Shannon says, this is so important. Yes, yes, it is. Mm. All right. So, self care and self love are not always mutually exclusive. Sometimes self care is rooted in conditional love. It is a should. And I've talked a little bit about shoulding on yourself already today. Ideally, self care should come from a place of love, which is your beingness first, but it's not always like that. So that's the conditional piece of this. And I have a story about my own experience with this. So when I was young, when I was like really little, like 3 or 4 or 5 probably, I felt like, so this is upon further reflection, I felt like when my parents got mad at me, they were taking their love away from me. And I'm sure that they weren't. They were, probably annoyed with me. And I can relate to that now as a mother of a 4-year old who is she is her own person and does what she wants to do. Um, so we get frustrated when I didn't take her love away. But as a little kid, I didn't know that. I couldn't process that. I just felt like I wasn't loved when I was in trouble. So I compensated by trying to be a perfectionist and people pleaser and not having any boundaries and doing what I thought that they wanted of me so that I would be accepted and loved. And um, that was, that worked for me. That's how I got my needs met. And as I got older, and just like a couple years ago, I remember journaling about this experience. I realized that I was still carrying this and running this program. So I forgave myself, and then I had judgment because I'm like, I should know better. I mean, I shouldn't, I should know that my parents loved me, and they didn't. They didn't. They weren't actually not loving me, but that's where we don't give ourselves that chance to heal if we're shooting on ourselves because there's that judgment there. And so I was able to come to the place where I was able to forgive myself for still running that program because I was doing the best that I could with the information that I had at the time. And now that I know better, I don't need to do that anymore. I can choose something different. And that is so powerful. But it all comes with that forgiveness and stopping that judgment first. And self care. Hmm, yeah. Speaking of self care, also, self care. Yeah. So, and when I'm talking about the self care and it coming from a place of love and being first, we often can, really try really hard to take better care of ourselves, and it almost can come to a detriment. And so this I used to do this. I would join challenges like a meditation challenge or um, hooping challenge or dance challenge or yoga challenge or whatever it was, and it would be like, you have to do this, you have to do it every day for a month. And then I would be so hard on myself if I didn't do it, or I would force myself to do it even when I didn't want to. And I'm like, well, I'm just not being disciplined enough. And I need to, I don't know what I was trying to prove to myself. I felt like maybe I needed to try to really embody a new habit or something. And I thought, like, getting this new habit, you're always told like you have to do it for 21 days and it's going to be hard, but you'll get used to it eventually. And you know what? I realized actually what I needed is to soften and listen. And if I listened to my body and it was saying, no, don't do this, I don't need to do it. Um, some days, like especially as women, we go through so many hormonal fluctuations throughout the month. And sometimes we do need that, higher paced activity. Sometimes we need to rest more. We just really need to listen to our body and see what we need to do in the moment. And that is so much more beneficial than trying to force yourself to do something that's like the same every day, even if it's not working for you. So that's just an example of, and so those things like whatever I was doing should have been self care, except it was not coming out of a place of loving myself. It was coming out of a place of like forcing and pushing. So there's always this opportunity to soften and to relax into, yeah, your beingness and listening. And on softening circumstances, like getting a concussion forced me to soften because I didn't know how. Most of, sorry, before I go on, yeah, I didn't know how. So that's my 2018 year was really hard because my husband's mental health crisis. And 2019, I just wanted to soften. I wanted it to be soft. And that's when I wrote so many pages in my journal about sleeping and resting and just being soft. And I didn't do the things to soften on my own. And I got it. That's when I got the concussion. And I was forced to soften. But even then, it took me so long, like probably 2 or 3 months, to really be gentle with myself and accept where I was at. And of course, there's a whole bunch of like identity loss and all sorts of stuff going on at that time too. But I was still like trying to force myself until I wasn't able to anymore. And yeah, so that having that experience forced me to soften where I literally couldn't do the things that I used to do. I could barely get through the day at the beginning part of it. And, you know, I highly recommend to learn this on your own without having some sort of big life um, lesson come at you. And of course, this isn't um, everybody's exact lesson, but if you're here, you're probably needing some of that softening and self forgiveness and self compassion energy too. I think most of us can soften our expectations of self, especially related to productivity. We kind of already talked about this of like the do, strive, 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 hustle culture. We got to hustle and grind. And like that's never really appealed to me. It just makes me go, oh, so stressful. We do need to work and all that stuff, but we need to soften first. There's so much pressure on us in so many different parts of life. And where what could be so helpful is to just soften, allow, surrender, be, get into that feminine flowing energy. And I already did talk about that, about how we need to get our needs met and they no longer serve us. So yeah, when I talked about the play and the rest, that's such an important thing, getting your needs met. And I'm actually going to go into that deeper in my human being course that's starting on May 13th. So if you're interested in discovering more about your needs and how to get them met in a safe place, that is the bonus module that I'm going to release on for that course. Hmm, like I said, we got to stop shooting on ourselves. Shoulds are a judgment and they create another layer of resistance for us to work through, so we can't actually get to the real issue that's underneath. So if we're able to just recognize that we have been shooting on ourselves and be like, oh, I did that again. Okay, well, let's forgive ourselves for that. And then forgive yourself for the thing. And then you can move on. Alchemizing with forgiveness and compassion. Huh, where is There's a missing slide, but that's okay. All right. So, is there any questions? Because we are going to get started on our little movement and dance journey here. Or is there anything coming up for you? I'm wondering if there's any other ways that you should on yourself too that you've noticed. You've come into resistance with that. You can type this in the Zoom comments or on the YouTube comments. Well, I'm going to get the closed actually for now. All right. Okay. So for our exercise today, we actually are going to find a time when you were judging yourself, something that is, actually, you know what? I want to open it up here because I had some notes and I still want to see it. I am not sure where it went. Hmm. All right, I must have accidentally deleted the whole slide. So we are just going to go with the flow then on this. Mm, all right. So I do actually have it written down. So we are going to drop into our hearts again. Close your eyes. And I'd like you to think of a time that you were not very nice to yourself, that you were shitting on yourself, not attached to it, but just be aware of it as the witness. And when you're thinking of this time, just connecting in to how that felt in your body, the sensations that you felt in your body when you weren't being very nice to yourself, where you felt them in your body. Maybe the thoughts that you had about yourself and the beliefs. Just staying with that for a moment. I'm going to invite you now to, we're going to do a little dance. And the dance is, we're going to just feel that in our body, to hold space. So we're going to hold space for that in our body. And we're going to activate some sacred space around us. And then after we do that, then we're going to move into the dance part. So just sitting with that feeling as a witness. I'm going to invite you to start breathing in through your nose. Letting it out with a sigh. We are calling in sacred space, activating the space of love so that we can feel and heal with compassion and with love anything that is no longer serving us. I'm inviting in the directions, calling in the direction of the west, the emotional realm, the element of water. that we may feel our emotions and it may flow through us like the waters of a river, calling in the direction of the north, the element of earth, so that we may be supported, having a solid and strong foundation, and rooted down into the ground, calling in the direction of the west, or sorry, the east, the element of air, the element of love of our heart, that we may enhance the quality of the air that we're breathing, make it more magical to help us heal and transmute and transform anything that is ready to be released. Calling in the element of fire, the direction of the south. Fire is the element of alchemy, so that we may burn away what is no longer needed and rise from the ashes as our new selves. Letting these elements all in and connecting into Gaia, to the Mama Gaia energy, allowing her to rise up and hold us as a divine mother. As a divine mother, she's inviting us to just let go of anything we no longer need, to drop it down into the earth, and she will transmute and transform it for us, turning it back into light like compost. Compost for her. Now connecting to the Great Father, to Source, the universe, to God, whatever you believe. Inviting in all the wisdom, all the light, energy of the sun flowing into us now. And this energy is all connecting, it's all meeting at a center point in our heart space. And from this space, we are going to connect in with our highest selves, teams of light, and the ascended masters. I'm calling in Kuan Yin for compassion. Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene. And any masters, any angels, anybody that you work with, calling them into the space as well, whether you're watching live or on the replay. Just calling in all of you on the replay too, calling in your energy right now. Whoosh, feeling that. I'm going to invite us to imagine around us a big circle sphere of energy. This energy is a container for us to be held in, to feel our feelings, that is filled with forgiveness, for compassion, just pure love. And we can pull this energy in, pull on this energy if we need, so that we can feel our emotions, experience whatever it is we need to experience today, held in the safety of this divine healing energy. I'm just going to share a little light language activation to seal everything in. Light language is language that comes from my soul. It's not in English words. It's something for your soul to receive. Just allow yourself to receive these codes that I'm sharing to activate your heart. Alamania kishimanaki kotoro monokya. Oshimanaki lamanaki e. Oshimanaki lamanaki shumanaku. E shimanaki lamanaki. Oshimanaki manala. Ah shimanaki lamanaki ikimanakia. Ah. Allowing yourself, let those wash over you. From here, I'm going to play the music. It's more beautiful music from my husband. So I'm going to invite you to stand up, and we are just going to move, coming back into that awareness of that judgment that we connected to earlier. I invite you for this dance. Bring yourself into your body. To remember your breath throughout the dance, breathing in through your nose, filling up your heart space. And allowing yourself just to feel. It's going to be a really slow dance, and you're not able to hear me super well when I talk on Zoom over music, so I will say some little cues, but if you can't hear me, just remember to come back into your breath, into the moment. If your mind starts wandering, just come back into the feeling and sensations in your body. We are going to get started. Realizing I'm not sure if you could hear that or not, because I didn't specifically share my sound. There we go. All right. Can't hear this, let me know. An emotion, how important is it to rest? We're going to just pause for a second, noticing how you're feeling, how that experience was, connecting into just a brief moment of reflection on what it felt like to dance with that maybe difficult emotion, space for it. Noticing if anything felt more clear, you could feel it in your body more clearly, if there was any more messages with it. You know, for myself, I really felt a lot in my heart, just some more mm, staticky, tingly energy, making space for it all. In our next song, we are going to do a little bit more high energy movement, and we are going to do some sipping breaths to build up energy. And then we are going to mm, let it go through mm, shaking it out, but also using this energy, building up the energy. You're going to use a breath in through our nose. It sounds like this. So 4 sips in through your nose, and then we can go out through your mouth. We're going to use that to clear. You can also do a breath in from the earth, up from the earth, going into our heart and letting it out. You can actually use your hands with these breaths to help play and move the energy around. Um, mm, we're not trying to force anything, but trying to just open up the channels of love, of forgiveness, of compassion. And imagining like you're sending love like we did before, like we talked to that other version of you in the past as you're doing this dance and you're starting to feel your heart center activate and open. Imagine yourself sending feelings of love to that other version of you that was judging themselves, shooting on themselves, and we'll go from there. This song, you can start moving around the space a little bit, onto your feet. Using your hands and your arms, open your heart as you dance. Connecting to the beat of your heart.
Don't forget the times I've shown a piece of myself that I don't know. Don't forget the times I've shown a piece of myself that I don't know.
Your heart. And I'm Taking a moment to come into center. If you're like me, you just worked up a lot of energy, a lot of heat. That breath really filled me up, opened my heart, and I felt like everything that was there, that tightness, just began to release, to move. Taking a moment to connect to your heart right now. Feeling your hand on your heart. A little visitor. One moment. I guess this is a moment of integration where we can let our inner child come out to play. Connecting with your own inner child. And asking them what they need right now. All right, sweetie, gotta go now, okay? I love you. You want a second go? No. Laura. I'm working still, sweetie. I'm ready. Mommy. Laura. Mommy, I love you. Can I pick you up? Right, come here. All right, I hope you are enjoying this, audience. Ah, little ones, and your children are so cute. Yes. Ah, beautiful. Well, sometimes we get interrupted, and I think it's just because we need some more integration time. So for our next and last song, we are going to just allow yourself to move with the music, really opening your heart, imagining that your arms are wings, that you're flying around, that you are free. I feel like I'm going to get some more interruptions, so just going to start right now. Continuing your breath as well. That's so important in this process, is using the breath. Back into those feelings of love, compassion, forgiveness.
Tell another beautiful lie. You thought that I'd still be innocent.
One more
warmer self.
Tell another beautiful lie.
It all melt.
Thought that I'd still be
Judgment,
innocent.
those shoulds, all melt.
But I'm not dead and I'm not broke. All of your words are gonna make me choke. So never forget that I'm still close, that I'll never fall again. You can see me shiver, gentle as a whisper, left in the dark. Color me crimson, you call it wisdom. Blood stains and scars. I don't feel alive. Can you touch me one more time?
Letting love energy inward, energy go down all the way. Starting to slow down your dance. Standing. Just coming, slowly moving into stillness. Gently rocking side to side. Noticing the sensations in your body right now. Noticing how just 3 songs can shift and move so much. We're just going to allow the energy to settle. Noticing if you're feeling any brighter, any lighter. Noticing you feel like you've moved through whatever it is you started working with today. You're able to offer it more compassion, more love, forgiveness. When you're ready, just coming back to seated. I know I need a little glass of water. Water. So now I'm going to do a quick little integration meditation. Even lay down for this if you want to. Allowing your body to soften. Whether you're laying down or sitting down, imagine or visualize there is a pool of energy below you, swirling pink and crystalline white light. Anything that you were ready to forgive, anything that you're ready to let go of. You don't even need to know what it is. Just imagine it dripping out of you or melting. Still moving down into this pool. This pool is mm, going to transmute all that you're letting go of. Turning it back into pure source energy, pure love. There's nothing you need to do. It's all happening. It's part of the alchemical process. And we're going to allow that to complete. Process and going to fill ourselves up once more. We're going to feel that love within our hearts, self-compassion, self-forgiveness. We're going to feel that start to expand, moving through our heart space, filling up parts of our body, filling up our legs, bellies, our shoulders, our arms, our backs, our necks, our heads. Energy is starting to expand now outside of our bodies to our energy field. We're just going to set the intention to keep this container of love surrounding us, knowing that we can come back to it, this feeling anytime. I'm going to invite you now, slowly come back to this space, wiggling your body, blinking open your eyes. I would love to know how that experience was for you. While I'm waiting for any responses, I didn't mean to pick this up, but this is what I actually wanted to talk about. So this is perfect. So this is the type of experience I am going to create in Human Being, the 6-week journey to remember who you are. These embodied practices are what help us be able to take the knowledge that we have and learn to integrate it and practice. And it's not even a learning, it's a remembering and practicing to integrate more of who we are, letting go of who we're not. And I will have a proper sound system so I can speak in we can speak through over the music. Get a mixer for that for this. Thank you. I'm just looking at a comment. Glad you're feeling refreshed and relaxed. And if you are here or on the replay afterwards, also let me know how you're feeling and how you're being, because I'm feeling amazing. So yeah, this is the type of experience that I'm going to create in the program starting May 13th. We're going to have a ceremony on foundation, on feeling our feelings, on power, and we're going to do a worth bowl meditation process where we vision our bowl of worth and see where there might be holes in it. Excited about that. One about exploring the mental realm, another one on love because that's my favorite. And then we have a week break and then we move on to spirit with celebration and gratitude. So there's the ceremonies, there's a bonus module, there's a journal that I'm super passionate about, and it's such a great way to stay connected to yourself. An audio meditation, so so much value. And there's also options to go on soul journeys with me. So if you're interested in that, it's kind of similar to like what we did today, and it's a unique soul journey just for you. The live ceremonies will be held from 6 to 7:30. So on Thursdays, just the same time and place as these ones have been. And there's also a scholarship as well if you are, actually there's two, one for in person with low income, and then another one for a Black, Indigenous, person of color, Asian, anybody that maybe normally wouldn't be able to access this type of work. I want to make this more accessible to people. So if you are interested, come and experience your whole beingness with me. Ceremony is so important. Connecting in circle and making this time for yourself is so powerful and transformational. I know that anytime I've been in a series like this, I've been able to going within, having the space to go within is where I learned so much. And my whole thing about alignment, we need to get into alignment And then we have access to the higher levels of consciousness and more information. So that is on Eventbrite. If you're watching this, there'll be the link on YouTube. It's in your email. It's all over my social media. So if you are interested, and if you have any other questions, let me know. I am here to answer them for you. Hmm. All right. So that was all that I wanted to cover today. I will be sending out another email and with some integration questions for this experience. Yeah, just be really gentle, soft with yourself. Do some journaling, see what comes up. You might get access to more information than what you've previously done because we're in this high vibrational state. Make sure you're drinking lots of water. Um, yeah, and I'm just feeling really called to be very gentle, very peaceful, very calm. And thank you so much for being on this journey with me. It has been such a word beautiful experience to share this information and mm, yeah, to connect with you. I would love to know if you have a takeaway from all of this. I kept forgetting to ask that at the other two sessions, but if you have a takeaway from any of the sessions or from the experience overall, I'd love to know what that is. And mm, yeah, that's it. So I'm going to stop the recording now and I'm going to stop the share first. Yeah, so anything, let me know. I'm going to stop the recording now. All right. Thank you so much, lovelies.